Good evening, and welcome to our latest performance of Liberty Center Association of the Arts Quarantine Theater. We at Liberty Center have enjoyed bringing you live-streamed staged readings of plays in the public domain for the last several months. We are very excited to bring you tonight Pygmalion by George Bernard Shaw. This 1913 comedy is the foundation for one of our favorite musicals, My Fair Lady. If you'd like to stay online after a curtain call to join us for a talkback, you can ask questions of our cast or director, or maybe put in a request for a future show. We'd love to have your feedback. And now we are proud to present Pygmalion by George Bernard Shaw. The play takes place in London. Act 1, Covent Garden at 11:15 p.m. Torrents of heavy spring rain. Pedestrians run for shelter under the portico of St. Paul's Church. They are all peering out gloomily at the rain.
I'm getting chilled to the bone. What can Freddy be doing all this time? He's been gone 20 minutes.
Not so long, but he ought to have got us a cab by now.
Oh, he won't get no cab, not till 11:30, missus, when they come back after dropping their theatre fares.
We can't stand here till 11:30.
Well, it ain't my fault, missus.
Other people got cabs. Why couldn't he? Well, haven't you got a cab?
There's not one to be had for love or money.
Oh, Freddy, there must be one. You can't have tried.
Do you expect us to go and get one ourselves?
I tell you, they're all engaged. I've been to Charing Cross one way and nearly to Ludgate Circle the other. And they're all engaged.
You really are very helpless, Freddy. Go again, and don't come back until you have got a cab.
I shall simply get sulked for nothing.
And what about us? Are we to stay here all night in this draft, with next to nothing on? You selfish pig.
Oh, very well. I'll go.
Oh! Now then, Freddy, look where you're going, dear.
Sorry.
There's manners for you. 2 bunches of violets trod in the mud.
How do you know that my son's name is Freddy?
Oh, he's your son, is he? Well, if you've done your duty by him as a mother should, ain't no better than to spoil a poor girl's flowers and then run away without paying. Will you be paying me then?
Do nothing of the sort, Mother. The idea.
Please, allow me. Clara, have you any sixpence?
No, I've nothing smaller than 6p.
Give it to me. Now, this is for your flowers.
Thank you kindly, lady.
Make her give you the change. These things are only a penny a bunch.
Now, tell me how it is you know my son's name.
I didn't.
I most certainly heard you call him by it. Don't try to deceive me.
I was trying to deceive you. I called him Freddy or Charlie, same as you might yourself if you was talking to a stranger and wished to be pleasant.
6p thrown away. Really, Mamma, you might have spared Freddy that.
Oh, sir, is there any sign of it stopping?
Oh, I'm afraid not. It started worse than ever about 2 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Cheer up, Captain, and buy a flower off a poor girl.
Oh, I'm sorry, I haven't any change.
I can give you change, Captain.
Now, don't be troublesome. There's a good girl. Here's 3 halfpence if that'll do you any good.
Thank you, sir.
You be careful. Give him a flower for it. There's a bloke here beyond taking down every blessed word you say.
I ain't done nothing wrong by speaking to the gentleman. I don't right to sell flowers if I keep off the curb. I'm a respectable girl, I am, so help me. I never spoke to him except asking him to buy a flower off me.
There. Who's hurting you, you silly girl? What do you take me for?
She thought you was a policeman, sir.
Do I look like a policeman?
Then what'd you take my words down for? You just show me what you wrote about me. What's that? That ain't proper writing. I can't read that.
I can. Cheer up, Captain, and buy flour off a poor girl. How do you come to be so far east? You were born in Lisson Grove.
What harm is there in my living Lisson Grove? It wasn't fit for a pig to live in, and I had to be foreign awake and
Live where you like, but stop that noise.
Come. He can't touch you. You have a right to live where you please.
I'm a good girl, I am.
Yeah, you know where I come from.
Hoxton.
I mean, you know everything you do. Well then, tell him where he come from if you want to go fortune telling.
Cheltenham, Harrow, Cambridge, and India.
Oh, quite right. May I ask you, sir, do you do this for your living at a music hall?
I've thought of that. Perhaps I shall someday.
He's no gentleman, he ain't, to interfere with a poor girl.
What on earth is Freddy doing? I shall get pneumonia if I stay in this draft any longer.
Earl's Court.
Will you please keep your impertinent remarks to yourself?
Did I say that out loud? I didn't mean to. I beg your pardon. Your mother's Epsom, unmistakably.
Very curious. I was brought up in Lodge Lady Park near Epsom.
What a devil of a name. Excuse me. You want a cab, do you?
Don't dare speak to me.
Please, Clara. We should be so grateful to you, sir, if you found us a cab. Oh. Thank you.
I don't know whether you've noticed, but the rain stopped about 2 minutes ago.
Frightening people like that. How would he like it himself?
It's quite fine now, Clara. Come along.
Oh, how tiresome.
Poor girl. Hard enough without being worried over every little thing.
How do you do it, if I may ask?
Simply phonetics, the science of speech. That's my profession. Also my hobby. Happy is the man who can make a living by his hobby. You can spot an Irishman or a Yorkshireman by his brogue. I can place any man within 6 miles. I can place him within 2 miles in London, sometimes within 2 streets.
Ought to be ashamed of himself, unmanly coward.
But is there a living in that?
Oh yes, quite a fat one. This is an age of upstarts. Men begin in Kentish Town with £80 a year and end in Park Lane with 100,000. They want to drop Kentish Town, but they give themselves away every time they open their mouths. Now I can teach them...
Let him mind his own business and leave a poor girl.
Woman, cease this detestable boo-hooing instantly, or else seek the shelter of some other place of worship.
I've a right to be here if I like, same as you.
A woman who utters such depressing and disgusting sounds has no right to be anywhere, no right to live. Remember that you are a human being with a soul and a divine gift of articulate speech, that your native language is the language of Shakespeare and Milton, and don't sit there crooning like a bilious pigeon.
Ow!
Oh, heavens, what a sound. Ow!
Gone.
You see this creature with her curbstone English, the English that will keep her in the gutters to the end of her days? Well, sir, in 3 months, I could pass that girl off as a duchess at an ambassador's garden party. I could even get her a place as a lady's maid or a shop assistant, which requires better English.
I myself am a student of Indian dialects, and I've come here to...
Do you know Colonel Pickering, the author of Spoken Sanskrit?
I am Colonel Pickering. Who are you?
Henry Higgins, author of the Higgins Universal Alphabet.
I came from India to meet you.
I was going to India to meet you.
Oh, where do you live?
27A Wimple Street. Come and see me tomorrow.
I'm at the Carlton. Come with me now. Let's have a jaw over some supper.
Right you are.
Buy a flower, kind gentleman. I'm short for my lodging.
I really haven't any change. I'm sorry.
Liar. You said you could change half a crown.
Oh, you ought to be stuffed with nails, you ought. Here, take the whole bloomin' basket for 6p. Ow! Ow!
Got one at last. Hello? Where are the two ladies that were here?
They went home ages ago.
And left me with a cab on my hands? Damnation!
Never mind you, young man. I'm going home in a taxi. 8p ain't no object to me, Charlie. Angel Court and Drury Lane. Let's see how fast you can make her up it.
Oh, well, I'm dashed. She's taken my cab. Aye.
Act 2, the next day at 11 a.m., Higgins' laboratory in Wimpole Street. Higgins has just been showing Pickering some strange pieces of equipment that Higgins uses to study the way people speak.
Well, I think that's the whole show.
It's really amazing. I haven't taken half of it in, you know.
Would you like to go over any of it again?
No, thank you. Thank you. I'm quite done up for this morning.
Yes, sir. A young woman wants to see you, sir.
A young woman? What does she want?
Well, sir, she says you'll be glad to see her when you know what she's come about. She's quite a common girl, sir. Very common indeed. I should have sent her away, only perhaps you wanted her to talk into your machines.
Oh, that's all right, Mrs. Pearce. Has she an interesting accent?
Oh, something dreadful, sir, really. I don't know how you can take an interest in it.
Let's have her up. Show her up, Mrs. Pearce.
Very well, sir. For you to say.
This is a rather bit of luck.
Yeah.
We'll get her talking, and I'll take it down first in Belle's visible speech. Then we'll get her on the phonogram so that we can turn her on as often as you like with the written transcript before you.
Oh, yeah. Capital.
This is the young woman, sir.
What?
Oh,
This is the girl I jotted down last night. She's no use. Be off with you. I don't want you.
Don't you be so saucy. You ain't heard what I came for yet. Did you tell him I come in a taxi?
Nonsense, girl. Why do you think Mr. Higgins cares what you came in?
Oh, well, we proud. Well, he ain't above giving lessons, not him. I heard him say so. Well, I ain't come here to ask for any compliment. And if my money's not good enough, I can go elsewhere.
Good enough for what?
Good enough for you. Now you know, don't you? I'm come to have lessons, I am. And to pay for 'em too, make no mistake.
Well, what do you expect me to say to you?
Well, if you was a gentleman, you might ask me to sit down, I think. Don't I tell you I'm bringing you business?
Pickering, shall we ask this baggage to sit down, or shall we throw her out the window?
no.
Ow! I won't be called a baggage when I've offered to pay like any lady.
What is it you want, girl?
I want to be a lady in a flower shop instead of selling at the corner of Tottenham Court Road. But they won't take me unless I can talk more genteel. He said he could teach me. Well, here I am, ready to pay him, and he treats me as if I was dirt.
How can you be such a foolish girl? You can't afford to pay Mr. Higgins.
Why shouldn't I? I know what lessons cost as well as you do, and I'm ready to pay.
How much?
Now you're talking. I thought you'd come off it when you saw a chance of getting back a bit of what you chucked at me last night.
Sit down.
Don't you order me about.
Sit down!
Ow!
Won't you sit down?
Don't mind if I do.
Oh, go.
What's your name?
Eliza Doolittle.
And how much do you propose to pay me for these lessons?
Oh, I know what's right. A lady friend of mine gets French lessons for 18p an hour from a real French gentleman. Well, you wouldn't have the face to ask me for the same for teaching me my own language as you would for French, so I won't give more than a shilling. Take it or leave it.
You know, Pickering, if you consider a shilling not as a simple shilling, but as a percentage of this girl's income, works out as a fully equivalent to 60 or 70 pounds from a millionaire. It's handsome. By George, it's enormous. It's the biggest offer I've ever had.
60 pounds? What are you talking about? I never offered you 60 pounds. Where would I even get 60 pounds?
Hold your tongue.
But I ain't got 60 pounds. Ow!
Silly girl, sit down. No one is going to touch your money.
Ow!
Higgins, I'm interested. What about the ambassador's garden party? I'll say you're the greatest teacher alive if you can make that good. I'll bet you all the expenses of the experiment you can't do it. And I'll pay for the lessons.
Oh, you are real good. Thank you, Captain.
Oh, it's nothing.
It's almost irresistible. She's so deliciously low, so horribly dirty.
Ow! I ain't dirty. I wash my face and hands before I come. I did.
Yes, in 6 months, in 3 if she has a good ear and a quick tongue, I'll take her anywhere and pass her off as anything. We'll start today, now, this moment. Take her away and clean her, Mrs. Pearce. Is there a good fire in the kitchen?
Yes, but...
Take all of her clothes and burn them. Order some new ones. Wrap her up in brown paper till they come.
You're no gentleman, you aren't, to talk of such things. I'm a good girl, I am.
We want none of your Listen Grove prudery here, young woman. You've got to learn to behave like a duchess. Take her away, Mrs. Pearce.
But I've got no place to put her.
Put her in the dustbin.
Ow!
Oh, come, Higgins, be reasonable.
Must be reasonable, Mr. Higgins. Really, you must. You can't walk all over everybody like this.
I walk over everybody. My dear Mrs. Pearce and dear Pickering, I never had the slightest intention of walking over anyone. All I propose is that we should be kind to this poor girl. We must help her to prepare and fit herself for her new station in life. If I did not express myself clearly, it was because I did not wish to hurt her delicacy.
But truly, sir, you can't take up a girl like that as if you were picking up a pebble on the beach.
Why not?
Why not? You don't know anything about her. What about her parents? She may be married.
Gone. Who'd marry me?
By George, Eliza, the streets will be strewn with the bodies of men shooting themselves for your sake before I've done with you.
Nonsense, sir. You mustn't talk like that to her.
I'm going. He's off his chump, he is.
Oh, indeed. I'm mad, am I? Very well, Mrs. Pearce. You needn't order the new clothes for her. Throw her out.
You see now what comes of being saucy. This way, please.
I didn't want no clothes. I wouldn't have taken them. I can buy my own clothes.
You're an ungrateful girl. This is all the thanks I get to offering to take you out of your gutter and dress you beautifully and make a lady of you?
Go home to your mother, girl, and tell her to take better care of you.
I ain't got no mother.
Very well, then. You can adopt her, Mrs. Pearce. Take her downstairs and...
But what's to become of her? Is she to be paid anything while she's here?
What on earth will she want with money? She'll have her food and her clothes.
Does it occur to you, Higgins, that the girl has some feelings?
Oh, no, I don't think so. Not any feelings that we need bother about. Have you, Eliza?
I got my feeling, same as anyone else.
Will you please keep to the point, Mr. Higgins? I want to know on what terms the girl is to be here. Is she to have any wages? And what's to become of her when you've finished your teaching? You must look ahead a little.
What's to become of her if I leave her in the gutter? Tell me that, Mrs. Pearce.
Well, that's her own business, not yours, Mr. Higgins.
Well, when I've done with her, we can throw her back into the gutter, and then it will be her own business again. So that's all right.
Oh, you've no feeling odd in you. You don't care for nothing but yourself. Here, I've had enough of this. I'm going. You ought to be ashamed of yourself. You ought.
Have some chocolates, Eliza.
How do I know what might be in 'em? I've heard of girls being drugged by the likes of you.
A pledge of good faith, Eliza. I eat one half, you eat the other. You shall have boxes of them, barrels of them, every day. You shall live on them, eh?
I wouldn't have ate it, only I'm too ladylike to take it out of my mouth.
Listen, Eliza. I think you said you came in a taxi.
What if I did? I've as good a right to take a taxi as anybody else.
You have, Eliza. And in the future, you shall have as many taxis as you want. You shall go up and down and round the town in a taxi every day. Think of that, Eliza.
Mr. Higgins, you're tempting the girl. It's not right. She should think of the future.
You shall remain here, Eliza, under the care of Mrs. Pearce, and you shall marry an officer of the guard with a beautiful mustache.
Excuse me, Higgins, but I really must interfere. Mrs. Pearce is quite right. If this girl is to put herself in your hands for 6 months for an experiment in teaching, she must understand thoroughly what she is doing.
How can she? She's incapable of understanding anything.
Ow!
There, that's all you get out of Eliza. Ow! No use explaining. As a military man, you ought to know that. Give her her orders. That's what she wants. Eliza, you are to live here for the next 6 months, learning how to speak beautifully, like a lady in a florist shop. If you're good and do whatever you're told, you should sleep in a proper bedroom and have lots to eat and money to buy chocolates and take rides in taxis. If you're naughty and idle, you will be taken by the police to the Tower of London, where your head will be cut off as a warning to other presumptuous flower girls. If you are not found out, you shall have a present of 7 and 6pence to start life with as a lady in a shop. If you refuse this offer, you will be the most ungrateful and wicked girl, and the angels will weep for you. Now are you satisfied, Pickering? Can I put more plainly and fairly, Mrs. Pearce?
I think you'd better let me speak to the girl properly in private. Come with me, Eliza.
Thank you, Mrs. Pearce. Bundle her off to the bathroom.
I'm not going to have my head cut off. And if I'd known as I was letting myself in for, I wouldn't have come here. I'm a good girl, I am, and I never offered to say a word to him, and I don't owe him nothing, and I don't care. And I won't be put upon, and I have my feelings same as anyone else.
Excuse the straight question, Higgins. Are you a man of good character where women are concerned?
I am a confirmed old bachelor and likely to remain so.
Come, Higgins, you know what I mean. If I'm to be in this business, I shall feel responsible for that girl. I hope it's understood that no advantage is to be taken of her situation.
What, that thing? Sacred, I assure you. You see, she'll be a pupil, and teaching would be impossible unless pupils were sacred.
True.
Might as well be blocks of wood. I might as well be a block of wood. It's completely crazy.
If you please, sir, the trouble's beginning already.
What?
Downstairs, Alfred Doolittle wants to see you. He says you have his daughter here.
Phew, I say.
Send the blackguard up.
Very well, sir.
He may not be pleasant, Higgins.
Nonsense. We are sure to get something interesting out of him.
About the girl?
No, I mean his dialect.
Doolittle, sir.
Professor Higgins.
Here. Good morning. Sit down.
Morning, Governor. I come about a very serious matter, Governor.
Brought up in Hounslow. Mother was Welsh, I should think. What do you want, Doolittle?
I want my daughter. That's what I want, see.
Of course you do. You're her father, aren't you? She's upstairs. Take her away at once.
What?
Take her away. Your daughter had the audacity to come to my house and ask me to teach her how to speak properly so that she could get a place in a flower shop. This gentleman and my housekeeper have been here all the time. How dare you come here and attempt to blackmail me?
If I asked you for a brass farthing, I leave it to the gentleman here. If I said a word about money.
Well, no.
What did you come for?
Well, what would a man come for? Be human, Governor.
Alfred, did you put her up to it?
So help me, Governor, I never did. I take me Bible oath, I ain't seen the girl these 2 months past.
Then how did you know she was here?
Taxi driver's a pal of mine. Asked him where he brought her.
You're going to take her away double quick.
No, Governor, don't say that.
Mrs. Pearce, this is Eliza's father. He has come to take her away. Give her to him.
No, this is a misunderstanding. Listen here.
He can't take her away, Mr. Higgins. How can he? He told me to burn her clothes.
That's right. I can't carry the girl through the streets like a bloomin' monkey, can I? I put it to you.
Take your daughter. If she has no clothes, go out and buy her some.
I have sent for clothes for your girl. When they come, you can take her away. You can wait in the kitchen. Come this way.
Listen here, Governor. You and me is men of the world, ain't we?
Oh, men of the world, are we? You'd better go, Mrs. Pearce.
I think so indeed, sir.
The floor is yours, Mr. Doolittle.
I thank you, Governor. All I ask is me rights as a father, and you're the last man alive to expect me to let her go for nothing, for I can see you're wanting a straight sort, Governor. Well, what's a £5 note to you? And what's Eliza to me?
I think you ought to know, Doolittle, that Mr. Higgins' intentions are entirely honorable.
Of course they are, Governor.
Oh.
Do you mean to say, you callous rascal, that you would sell your daughter for £5?
Not in a general way, I wouldn't, but to oblige a gentleman like you, I'd do a good deal, I assure you.
Have you no morals, man?
Can't afford them, Governor. Neither could you if you was as poor as me. Not that I mean any harm, you know, but if Liza's going to have a bit out of this, why not me too?
I don't know what to do, Pickering. There can be no question that as a matter of morals, it's a positive crime to give this chap a farthing.
Yeah.
And yet I feel a sort of rough justice in his claim.
That's it, Governor. That's all I say. A father's art, as it were.
Well, I know the feeling, but really, it seems hardly right to do this.
Don't say that, Governor. Don't look at it that way. What am I, Governors both? I ask you. What am I? I'm one of the undeserving poor. That's what I am. Think of what that means to a man. It means that he's up against middle-class morality all the time. What is middle-class morality? Just an excuse for never giving me anything. I ain't pretending to be deserving. I'm undeserving. And I mean to go on being undeserving. Will you take advantage of a man's nature to do him out of the price of his own daughter what he's brought up and fed and clothed by the sweat of his brow till she's grown big enough to be interesting to you two gentlemen? Is £5 unreasonable? I put it to you, and I leave it to you.
Pickering, if we were to take this man in hand for 3 months, he could choose between a seat in the cabinet and a popular pulpit in Wales.
Not me, Governor, thank you kindly. Undeserving poverty is my line. Taking one station in society with another, it's the only one that has any ginger in it to my taste.
I suppose we must give him a £5.
He'll make bad use of it, I'm afraid.
Not me, Governor, so help me I won't. Don't you be afraid that I'll save it and spare it and live idle on it. There won't be a penny of it left by Monday. I'll have to go to work same as if I'd never had it. It won't pauperize me, you bet. Just one good spree for myself and the missus, giving pleasure to ourselves and employment to others. and satisfaction to you to think it's not been thrown away. You couldn't spend it better.
This is irresistible. Let's give him 10.
No, Governor, she wouldn't have the heart to spend 10, and perhaps I shouldn't either. £10 is a lot of money. It makes a man feel prudent-like, and in good bought happiness. You give me what I ask you, Governor, not a penny more, not a penny less.
Why don't you marry that missus of yours? I rather draw the line at encouraging that sort of immorality.
Tell her so, Governor, tell her so. I'm willing. I'm a slave to that woman, Governor, just because I'm not a lawful husband.
Pickering, if we listen to this man another minute, we shall have no convictions left. £5 it is, then.
Thank you kindly, Governor. Good morning. Beg pardon, miss.
Go on! Don't you know your own daughter?
Blimey, it's Eliza!
Oh, by Jove!
Well, I never thought she'd clean up as good looking as that, Governor. She's a credit to me, ain't she?
I tell you, it's so easy to clean up here. Hot and cold water on tap, just as much as you like. Soft brushes to scrub yourself, and soap smelling like primroses. Now I know a ladies is always so clean. Washing's a treat for 'em.
Doolittle, you've brought your daughter up too strictly.
Me? I never brought her up at all. She ain't accustomed to bathing, you see, that's all. But she'll pick up your free and easy ways.
I'm a good girl, I am, and I won't pick up no free and easy ways. Have you come here for money to get drunk on?
Well, what else would I want money for? I wish you good luck with this one. So long, gentlemen.
Stop. You'll come regularly to see your daughter. It's your duty, you know.
Certainly. I'll come, Governor. Just not this week, because I have a job at a distance. But later on, you may depend on me. Afternoon, gentlemen.
Don't you believe that old liar? You won't see him again in a hurry.
I don't want to. Do you?
Not me. I don't want to see him again, I don't. He's a disgrace to me, he is, taking money out of other people's pockets into his own.
Now, Liza, the new things have come for you to try on.
Ow!
Oh, don't rush about like that girl.
Pickering, we have taken on a stiff job.
Higgins, we have.
Mother!
Henry, what are you doing here today? It is my at-home day. You promised not to come. Really, dear, you mustn't stay.
I must. I've a job for you. I've picked up a girl.
Does that mean that some girl has picked you up?
Not at all. I don't mean a love affair.
Oh, what a pity. Do you know what you would do if you really loved me, Henry?
Oh, bother. What? Marry, I suppose?
No. Stop fidgeting and take your hands out of your pockets. That's a good boy. Now tell me about the girl.
She's coming to see you.
I don't remember asking her.
You didn't. I asked her. If you'd known her, you wouldn't have asked her. She's a common flower girl, and I found her on the street.
And invited her to my home?
Oh, that's all right. I've taught her how to speak properly, and she has strict orders as to her behavior. She's to keep to 2 subjects, the weather and everybody's health. Fine day and how do you do, you know. That will be safe.
Safe? To talk about our health and our insides? Perhaps about our outsides? How could you be so silly, Henry.
Well, she has to talk about something. Oh, she'll be all right. Don't you fuss. Pickering is in it with me. I've a sort of bet on that I'll pass her off as a duchess in 6 months. I started on her some months ago, and she's getting on like a house on fire. I shall win my bet. She has a quick ear and talks English almost as you talk French.
Well, that's satisfactory at all events.
Well, it is and it isn't.
What does that mean?
You see, I've got her pronunciation all right, but you have to consider not only how a girl pronounces, but what she pronounces, and that's where...
And Mr. and Miss Eynsford-Hill.
Oh, Lord.
How do you do?
How do you do?
My son Henry?
Oh, your celebrated son. I have so longed to meet you, Professor Higgins.
Delighted.
How do you do?
I've seen you before somewhere. I haven't the ghost of a notion where, but I've heard your voice. No, doesn't matter. You'd better sit down.
I'm sorry to say that my celebrated son has no manners. You mustn't mind him.
I don't.
Oh, have I been rude? I didn't mean to.
How do you do, Mrs. Higgins?
So glad you've come. Do you know Mrs. and Miss Eynsford-Hill?
Has Henry told you what we've come for?
I was interrupted. Damn it.
Oh, Henry, really?
Are we in the way?
Oh, no. You couldn't have come more fortunately. We want you to meet a friend of ours.
Yes, by George. We want 2 or 3 people. You'll do as well as anybody else.
Mr. Eynsford-Hill.
God of heaven, another of them.
How do you do?
Very good of you to come. Colonel Pickering?
How do you do?
I don't think you know my son, Professor Higgins.
How do you do?
I'll take my oath I've met you somewhere. Where was it?
I don't think so.
It doesn't matter anyhow. Sit down. Well, here we are anyhow. And now what the devil are we going to talk about until Eliza comes?
Henry, you are the life and soul of the Royal Society soirees, but really you're rather trying on more commonplace occasions.
Am I? Very sorry. I suppose I am, you know.
Sympathize. I haven't any small talk. If people would only be frank and say what they really think.
Lord forbid.
But why?
What people think they ought to think is bad enough. Lord knows. But what they really think would break up the whole show. Do you suppose it would be really agreeable if I were to come out with what I really think?
Is it so very cynical?
Cynical? Who the dickens said anything about cynical? I mean, it wouldn't be decent.
Yeah.
I'm sure you don't mean that, Mr. Higgins.
You see, we're all savages, more or less. We're supposed to be civilized and cultured, to know all about poetry and philosophy and art and science and so on. But what do you know of poetry? What do you know of science? What does he know of art or science or anything else? What the devil do you imagine I know of philosophy?
Or of manners, Henry.
Miss Doolittle.
Oh,
Here she is, Mother.
How do you do, Mrs. Higgins? Professor Higgins told me I might come.
Oh, quite right. I'm very glad indeed to see you.
how do you do, Mrs. Doolittle?
Colonel Pickering, is it not?
I feel sure we have met before, Miss Doolittle. I remember your eyes.
How do you do?
My daughter, Clara.
How do you do?
How do you do?
I've certainly had the pleasure.
My son, Freddy.
How do you do?
By George. Yes, it's all come back to me. Covent Garden. What a damned thing.
Henry, please.
Sorry.
Will it rain, do you think?
The shallow depression in the west of these islands is likely to move slowly in an easterly direction. There are no indications of any great change in the barometrical situation.
How awfully funny.
What is wrong with that, young man? I bet I got it right.
Killing.
I'm sure I hope it won't turn cold. There's so much influenza about.
My aunt died of influenza, so they said.
Oh, my dear.
But it's my belief they'd done the poor woman in.
Done her in?
Yes, Lord love you. Why should she die of influenza? She come through diphtheria right enough the year before. I saw her with my own eyes. Fairly blue with it she was. They all thought she was dead, but my father kept ladling gin down her throat till she come to so sudden she bit the bowl off the spoon.
Dear me.
What would a woman with that strength in her have to die of influenza? And what become of her new straw hat that should have come to me? Somebody pinched it, and what I say is, them as pinched it done her in.
What does doing her in mean?
Oh, that's the new small talk. To do a person in means to kill them.
Oh, surely you don't believe that your aunt was murdered?
I certainly do. Them she lived with would have killed her for a hat pin, let alone a hat.
But it can't have been right for your father to pour spirits down her throat like that. It might have killed her.
Not her. Gin was mother's milk to her. Besides, he'd poured so much down his own throat that he knew the good of it.
You mean that he drank?
My word, something chronic.
How dreadful for you.
Not a bit. It never did him no harm, what I could see. But then he did not keep it up regular. On the burst, as you might say, from time to time, and always had a more agreeable disposition when he had a drop-in. Here, what are you sniggering at?
No, the new small talk. You do it so awfully well.
If I was doing it proper, what was you laughing at? Have I said anything I oughtn't?
Oh, not at all, Miss Doolittle.
Well, that's a mercy anyhow. What I always say is... Well, I must go. So pleased to have met you. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye, Colonel Pickering.
Goodbye, Miss Doolittle.
Goodbye, all.
Are you walking across the park, Miss Doolittle? If so,
Walk? Not bloody likely.
Oh.
I am going in a taxi.
Well, I really can't get used to the new ways.
Oh, it's all right, Mama. Quite right. People will think we never go anywhere, see anybody if you're so old-fashioned.
I dare say I am old-fashioned, very old-fashioned. But I do hope you won't begin using that expression, Clara. I have got accustomed to hearing you calling everything filthy and beastly. though I do think it unladylike. But this last is really too much.
It's all a matter of habit. There's no right or wrong in it. Nobody means anything by it. And it's so quaint and gives such a smart emphasis to things that are not, in themselves, very witty. I find the new small talk delightful and quite innocent.
After that, I think it is time for us to go.
Oh, yes. We have 3 at-homes to go to still. Goodbye, Mrs. Higgins. Goodbye, Colonel Pickering. Goodbye, Professor Higgins.
Goodbye. Be sure you tried on that small talk on your other visits. Don't be nervous about it. Pitch it in strong.
I will. Goodbye. Such nonsense. All this early Victorian prudery.
Such damned nonsense.
Such bloody nonsense.
Clara!
Well, I'll be dashed. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Would you like to meet Miss Doolittle again?
Yes, I should. Most awfully.
Well, you know my days.
Yes, thanks awfully. Goodbye.
Goodbye, Mr. Higgins. Colonel Pickering.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
It's no use. I shall never be able to bring myself to use that word.
Don't. It's not compulsory, you know. You'll get on quite well without it.
You mustn't mind, Clara. We're so poor, and she gets so few parties. Poor child. She doesn't quite know. But the boy is nice, don't you think so?
Oh, quite nice. I shall always be delighted to see him.
Thank you, dear. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Well, is Eliza presentable?
Oh, you silly boy. Of course she's not presentable. She looks beautiful, but she gives herself away in every sentence she utters.
She simply needs to remember to confine her conversational topics to the weather and health.
Colonel Pickering, would you tell me what is the exact state of things in Wimpole Street?
Well, I've come to live there with Henry. We work together at my Indian dialects. We think it more convenient.
Quite so. I know all about that. It's an excellent arrangement. But where does this girl live?
With us, of course. Where would she live?
And she's so useful. She knows where my things are and remembers my appointments and so forth.
Well, how does your housekeeper get on with her?
Mrs. Pearce? Oh, she's jolly glad to get so much taken off of her hands. But she's got some silly bee in her bonnet about Eliza. She keeps saying, "You don't think, sir." Doesn't she, Pick?
Yes, that's the formula. You don't think, sir. That's the end of every conversation about Eliza.
Yes, well, you certainly are a pretty pair of babies playing with your live doll.
Playing? The hardest job I've ever tackled. But you have no idea how frightfully interesting it is to take a human being and change her into a quite different human being.
I assure you, Mrs. Higgins, we take Eliza very seriously. Every week, every day almost, there's some new change.
Yes, by George, it's the most absorbing experiment I've ever tackled. She regularly fills Eliza, doesn't she, Pick?
We're always talking Eliza.
Teaching Eliza.
Dressing Eliza.
What?
Inventing new Elizas. You know, she has the most extraordinary quickness of ear.
Yeah, I assure you, Mrs. Higgins, that girl is a genius.
He is just like a parrot. I've tried her with every possible sort of sound for a human being can make.
She can play the piano quite beautifully.
Continental dialects, African dialects, Hottentot clicks.
We've taken her to classical concerts and to music halls. It's all the same, sir. She plays everything. What? I beg your pardon.
Sorry. When Pickering starts shouting, nobody can get a word in edgewise.
Be quiet, Henry. Colonel Pickering, don't you realize that when Eliza walked into Wimpole Street, something walked in with her?
As her father did, but Henry soon got rid of him.
No, something else. A problem, you two infinitely stupid male creatures. The problem of what is to be done with her afterwards.
I don't see anything in that. She can go her own way with all the advantages I have given her.
The advantages of that poor woman who was here just now? The manners and habits that disqualify a fine lady from earning her own living without giving her a fine lady's income? Is that what you mean?
Oh, that will be all right, Mrs. Higgins.
We'll find some light employment for her.
She's happy enough. Don't you worry about her. Goodbye.
Anyhow, there's no good bothering now. The thing's done. Goodbye, Mother.
There are plenty of openings. We'll do what's right. Goodbye.
Let's take her to the Shakespeare exhibition at Earl's Court.
Yes, let's. Her remarks will be delicious.
She'll mimic all the people for us when we get home.
Ripping.
Oh, men, men, men.
Act 4. A few months later. Professor Higgins' Wimpole Street Laboratory at midnight.
I say, Pick, lock up, will you? I shan't be going out again.
Right. Can Mrs. Pearce go to bed? We don't want anything more, do we?
Oh, Lord, no. I wonder where my bloody slippers are. Oh, Lord. What an evening. What a crew. What a silly tomfoolery.
Well, I feel a bit tired. It's been a long day. Garden party, dinner party, the opera. Rather too much of a good thing. But you've won your bet, Higgins. Eliza did the trick and something to spare, eh?
Thank God it's over.
Were you nervous at the garden party? I certainly was. Eliza didn't seem a bit nervous.
Oh, she wasn't nervous. I knew she'd be all right. No, it's the strain of putting the job through all these months that has a toll on me. It was interesting enough at first while we were at the phonetics, but after that I got deadly sick of it.
Oh.
If I hadn't backed myself to do it, I should have chucked the whole thing 2 months ago. It was a silly notion. The whole thing has been a bore.
Oh, come. The garden party was frightfully exciting. My heart began beating like anything.
Yes, for the first 3 minutes. But when I saw we were going to win hands down, I felt like a bear in a cage, hanging about, doing nothing. The dinner was worse. Sitting gorging there for over an hour with nobody but a damned fool of a fashionable woman to talk to.
But the duck was memorable.
I tell you, Pickering, never again for me. No more artificial duchesses. The whole thing has been simple purgatory.
You've never been broken in properly to the social routine. Anyhow, it was a great success, an immense success.
Finally, it's over and done with, and now I can go to bed at last without dreading tomorrow.
I think I should turn in too. Still, it's been a great occasion, a triumph for you. Good night.
Good night. Put out the lights, Eliza, and tell Mrs. Pearce not to make coffee in the morning. I'll take tea. What the devil have I done with my slippers?
There are your slippers, and there, and may you never have a day's luck with them.
What on earth? What's the matter? Anything wrong?
Nothing wrong. With you. I've won your bet for you, haven't I? That's enough for you. I don't matter, I suppose.
You won my bet. You? Presumptuous insect. I won it. What did you throw those slippers at me for?
Because I wanted to smash your face. Why didn't you leave me where you picked me out of in the gutter? You thank God it's all over. Now you can throw me back there again, do you?
Would you... Claws in, you cat. Sit down and be quiet.
What's to become of me? What's to become of me?
How the devil do I know what's to become of you? What does it matter what becomes of you?
You don't care. You wouldn't care if I was dead. I'm nothing to you, not so much as them slippers.
Those slippers.
Those slippers. I didn't think it made any difference now.
Why are you going on like this? Has anybody behaved badly to you?
No.
I presume you don't pretend that I have treated you badly.
No.
I'm glad to hear it. Perhaps you're tired after the strain of the day. Will you have a glass of champagne?
No. Thank you.
I suppose it was natural for you to be anxious about the garden party, but that's all over now. There's nothing more to worry about.
No. Nothing more for you to worry about. Oh, God. I wish I was dead.
Why? In heaven's name, why?
I heard your prayers. Thank God it's all over.
Well, don't you thank God it's all over? Now you are free and can do what you like.
What am I fit for? What have you left me fit for? Where am I to go? What am I to do? What's to become of me?
Oh, that's what you're worrying about? I shouldn't worry about it if I were you. What about your old idea of a florist shop? Pickering could set you up in one. He's got lots of money. I should imagine you won't have much difficulty in settling yourself somewhere or other, though I hadn't quite realized that you were going away. You might marry, you know. You're not bad looking. It's quite a pleasure to look at you sometimes. Not now, of course, because you're crying. You go to bed and have a good, nice rest, and then you'll look a lot better in the morning. I dare say my mother could find some chap or other who would do very well. Come, you'll be all right. I must clear off to bed. I'm devilishly sleepy. By the way, I came down looking for something, but I forgot what it was.
Your slippers.
Oh, yes, of course. You threw them at me.
Before you go, sir, do my clothes belong to me or to Colonel Pickering?
What the devil use would they be to Pickering?
He might want them for the next girl you pick up to experiment on.
Is that the way you feel toward us?
I don't want to hear any more about that. All I want to know is whether anything belongs to me. My own clothes were burnt. I want to know what I may take away with me. I don't want to be accused of stealing.
Stealing? You shouldn't have said that, Eliza. That shows a want of feeling.
I'm sorry. I'm only a common, ignorant girl, and in my station I have to be careful. There can't be any feelings between the like of you and the like of me. Will you please tell me what belongs to me and what doesn't?
You may take the whole damned houseful if you like. Except the jewels, they're hired. Will that satisfy you?
Stop. Please. Here. Will you take this to your room and keep it safe? I don't want to run the risk of it being missing.
If these belonged to me instead of a jeweler, I'd ram them down your ungrateful throat.
This ring isn't the jeweler's. It's the one you bought me in Brighton. I don't want it now. Don't you hit me!
Hit you, you infamous creature! How dare you accuse me of such a thing? It is you who have hit me. You have wounded me to the heart.
I'm glad. I got back a bit of my own anyhow.
You have caused me to lose my temper, a thing that has hardly ever happened to me before. I prefer to say nothing more tonight. I am going to bed.
You'd better leave a note for Miss Pearce about the coffee, for she won't be told by me.
Damn Mrs. Pearce, and damn the coffee, and damn you, and damn my own folly for having lavished my hard-earned knowledge and the treasure of my regard and intimacy on a heartless gutter snipe.
Act 5. The next morning. Mrs. Higgins' drawing room.
Mr. Henry, ma'am, is downstairs with Colonel Pickering.
Oh, well, show them up.
They're using the telephone, ma'am. Telephoning to the police, I think.
What?
Mr. Henry's in a state, ma'am. I thought I'd better tell you.
If you had told me that Henry was not in a state, it would have been more surprising. Oh, tell them to come up when they've finished with the police. I suppose he's lost something.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, go upstairs and tell Miss Doolittle that Mr. Henry and the Colonel are here. Ask her not to come down till I send for her.
Yes, ma'am.
Look here, Mother. Here's a confounded thing.
Yes, dear. Good morning. What is it?
Eliza's bolted.
Oh, you must have frightened her.
Frightened her? Nonsense. She left last night. Her bed wasn't slept in. She came in a cab for her things before 7 this morning, and that fool Mrs. Pearce let her have them without telling me a word about it. What am I to do?
Do without her, Henry. The girl has a perfect right to leave if she chooses.
But I can't find anything. I don't know what my appointments are. I'm just...
Good morning, Miss Higgins. Has Henry told you?
What does that ass of an inspector say? Have you offered a reward?
No.
You don't mean to say you've set the police after Eliza?
Of course. What are the police for? We want to find her.
You have no more sense, either of you, than two children. Why in the world would you go and get the police?
Mr. Henry, a gentleman, Mr. Doolittle, wants to see you. Very particular. He's been sent on from Wimpole Street.
Doolittle? Do you mean the dustman?
Dustman? No, sir, a gentleman.
By George, Pick. It's some relative of hers that she's gone to. Somebody we know nothing about. Send him up quick.
Yes, sir.
Do you know any of her people?
Only her father, the fellow we told you about.
Mr. Doolittle?
Oh.
See it. You see this? You done this.
Done what, man?
This, I tell you. Look at it. Look at this hat. Look at this coat.
Has Eliza been buying you clothes?
Liza, why'd she buy me clothes?
Good morning, Mr. Doolittle. Won't you sit down?
Asking your pardon, ma'am. Thank you. I'm that full of what has happened to me, I can't think of anything else.
What the dickens has happened to you?
I shouldn't mind if it only happened to me. Anything might happen to anybody, and nobody to blame but Providence, as you might say. But this is something that you done to me. Yes, you, Henry Higgins.
What has my son done to you, Mr. Doolittle?
Done to me. Ruined me. Destroyed my happiness. Tied me up and delivered me into the hands of middle-class morality. You wrote a letter to your millionaire friend in America because you thought I was so amusing.
Who? Ezra D. Wanafella? He's dead.
Yeah, he's dead, and I'm done for. The blight is gone and left me all his money.
He did? What a lark.
You may well call it a silly joke. It put a lid on me right enough. Just give him the chance he wanted to show that Americans is not like us. That they recognize and respect merit in every class of life, no matter however humble. Now everyone wants to be my friend so they can get a bit of my money. I have to live for others and not for myself. That's middle-class morality.
But, my dear Mr. Doolittle, you need not suffer all this if you are really in earnest. Nobody can force you to accept this bequest. You can give it back.
That's the tragedy of it, ma'am. It's easy to say chuck it, but I haven't the nerve. I have to dye my hair already to keep my job as a dustman. If I was wanted a deserving poor and put by a bit, I could chuck it. But I, as one of the undeserving poor, have nothing between me and the poorhouse but this here blasted 3,000 a year. It shoves me into the middle class. And that's what your son has brought me to.
Well, I'm very glad you're not going to do anything foolish, Mr. Doolittle, for this solves the problem of Eliza's future. You can provide for her now.
Yes, ma'am. I'm expected to provide for everyone now.
Nonsense. She doesn't belong to him. I paid him £5 for her. You took that money for the girl, and you have no right to take her as well.
Henry, don't be absurd. If you really want to know where Eliza is, she's upstairs.
Upstairs? Then I shall jolly soon fetch her downstairs.
Oh, be quiet, Henry. Sit down. Eliza came to me this morning. She told me of the brutal way you two treated her.
What?
Higgins, did you bully her after I went to bed?
Just the other way about. She threw my slippers in my face and used perfectly awful language.
But why? What did we do to her?
I think I know pretty well what you did. The girl is naturally rather affectionate, I think, isn't she, Mr. Doolittle?
Very tender-hearted, ma'am. Takes after me.
Just so. She had become attached to you two. She worked very hard for you, Henry. Well, it seems that when the great day of trial came and she did this wonderful thing for you without making a single mistake, you two sat there and never said a word to her, but talked together of how glad you were it was all over and how you had been bored with the whole thing. And then you were surprised because she threw your slippers at you. I would have thrown bricks at you.
We said nothing except that we were tired and wanted to go to bed. Did we, Pick?
Well, that was all.
Quite sure?
Absolutely.
You didn't thank her? Or admire her?
Well,
or tell her how splendid she'd been?
But she knew all about that. We didn't make speeches to her, if that's what you mean.
Perhaps we were a little inconsiderate.
Well, I'm afraid she won't go back to Wimpole Street, especially now that Mr. Doolittle is able to keep up the position you have thrust upon her. But she says she's quite willing to meet you on friendly terms and to let bygones be bygones.
Oh, is she, by George?
If you promise to behave yourself, Henry, I'll ask her to come down.
Oh, all right, Pick. You behave yourself.
Oh,
Let us put on our best Sunday manners for this creature that we picked up out of the mud.
Henry. Mr. Doolittle, will you be so good as to step out on the balcony for a moment? I don't want Eliza to have the shock of your news until she has made it up with these two gentlemen. Would you mind?
As you wish, lady.
Ask Miss Doolittle to come down, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, Henry, be good.
I am behaving myself perfectly.
he is doing his best, Mrs. Higgins.
Henry, dearest, you don't look at all nice in that attitude.
I was not trying to look nice, Mother.
Henry.
Where the devil is that girl? We're going to have to wait here all day?
How do you do, Professor Higgins? So glad to see you again, Colonel Pickering. Quite chilly this morning, isn't it?
Don't you dare try this game on me. Get up and come home and don't be a fool.
Oh, very nicely put indeed, Henry. No woman resist such an invitation.
I have created this thing out of the squashed cabbage leaf Covent garden, and now she pretends to play the fine lady with me?
Will you drop me altogether now that the experiment is over, Colonel Pickering?
Oh, don't. You mustn't think of it as an experiment. It shocks me somehow.
Oh, I'm only a squashed cabbage leaf.
No.
But I owe so much to you that I should be very unhappy if you forgot me.
Well, it's very kind of you to say so, Miss Doolittle.
You see, it was very difficult for me with the example of Professor Higgins always before me. I was brought up to be just like him, unable to control myself and always using bad language on the slightest provocation. And I should have never known that ladies and gentlemen didn't behave that way if you hadn't been there.
Well,
Still, he taught you to speak, and I couldn't have done that, you know.
Of course, that is his profession.
damnation.
But it was just like learning to dance in the fashionable way. There was nothing more to it than that. But you know, it began my real education.
What?
When you called me Miss Doolittle, that first day when I came to Wimpole Street, that was the beginning of self-respect for me. And there are 100 little things you never noticed because they came naturally to you. Things about standing up and taking off your hat and opening doors and...
Oh, that was nothing.
Yes, but things that showed you thought and felt about me as if I was something more than just a flower girl. I'm not blaming Professor Higgins. It is his way, isn't it? But it made such a difference to me. You see, really and truly, the difference between a lady and a flower girl is not how she behaves, but how she's treated. I shall always be a flower girl to Professor Higgins because he treats me as a flower girl and always will. But I know I can't be a lady to you because you always treat me as a lady and always will.
Please don't grind your teeth, Henry.
Well, this is really very nice of you, Miss Doolittle.
I should like you to call me Eliza, if you would.
Thank you. Eliza, of course.
And I should like Professor Higgins to call me Miss Doolittle.
Oh,
I'll see you damned first.
Henry!
why don't you slang back at him? Don't stand it. It would do him a lot of good.
I can't. I could have done it once, but now I can't go back to it. I've forgotten my own language and can speak nothing but yours.
Oh.
That's the real break-off with the corner of Tottenham Court Road. Leaving Wimpole Street finishes it.
What? But you're coming back to Wimpole Street, aren't you? You'll forgive Higgins.
Forgive? Will she, by George? Let her go. Let her find out how she can get on without us. She will relapse into the gutter in 3 weeks.
He's incorrigible, Eliza. You won't relapse, will you?
No, not now. I have learnt my lesson. I don't believe I could utter one of those old sounds if I tried. Ow!
Just so. Ow! 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 Victory! Victory!
Can you blame the girl? Don't look at me like that, Eliza. It ain't my fault. I've come into money.
You must have touched a millionaire this time, Dad.
I have, but I'm dressed up something special today. I'm going to St. George's, Hanover Square. Your stepmother's going to marry me.
You're going to let yourself down to marry that low, common woman?
He ought to, Eliza. Why has she changed her mind?
Intimidated, Governor. Intimidated. Middle-class morality claims its victim. Won't you put on your hat, Liza, and come and see me turned off? Don't be afraid. She never comes to words with anyone now. Poor woman, respectability has broke all the spirit out of her.
Be kind to them, Eliza. Make the best of it.
Oh, well, just to show there's no ill feeling, I'll be back in a moment.
And you'll come to the church, Colonel, and put me through straight?
With pleasure. Well, as far as a bachelor can.
May I come, Mr. Doolittle? I should be very sorry to miss your wedding.
I should indeed be honored by your condescension, ma'am. And my poor old woman would take it as a tremendous compliment. She's been very low thinking of the happy days that are no more.
I'll order the carriage and get ready. I shan't be more than 15 minutes. I'm going with you to the church to see your father married, Eliza.
Before I go, Eliza, do forgive him and come back to us.
I don't think Papa would allow me. Would you, Dad?
What?
They played you off very cunning, Eliza, into sportsman. I shan't interfere. It's time for us to go, Colonel. So long, Henry. See you in St. George's, Eliza.
Do stay with us, Eliza.
Well, Eliza, you've had a bit of your own back, as you call it. Have you had enough? And are you going to be reasonable? Or do you want any more?
You want me back to pick up your slippers and put up with your tempers and fetch and carry for you.
I haven't said I wanted you back at all, and I don't intend to change my manners. My manners are exactly the same as Colonel Pickering's.
That's not true. He treats a flower girl as if she were a duchess.
And I treat a duchess as if she were a flower girl.
I see. The same to everybody.
The question is not whether I treat you rudely, but whether you've ever heard me treat anyone else better.
I don't care how you treat me. I don't mind your swearing at me. I don't mind a black eye. I've had one before this. But I won't be passed over. I can do without you. Don't think I can't.
I know you can. I told you you could. You never asked yourself, I suppose, whether I could do without you.
Don't you try to get round me. You'll have to do without me.
I can do without anybody. But I shall miss you, Eliza. I have learnt something from your idiotic notions. I confess that humbly and gratefully. And I have grown accustomed to your voice and appearance. I like them rather.
Well, you have them both on your gramophone and in your book of photographs. When you feel lonely without me, you can turn the machine on. It's got no feelings you can hurt.
I can't turn your soul on. Leave me those feelings and you can take away the voice and face. They are not you.
Oh, you are a devil. You can twist the heart of a girl as easy as some could twist her arms to hurt her. Mrs. Pearce warned me. Time and again she has wanted to leave you, and you always got round her at the last minute. And you don't care a bit for her, and you don't care a bit for me.
I care for life, for humanity, and you are a part of it that has come my way and been built into my house. What more can you or anyone ask?
I won't care for anyone that doesn't care for me.
You call me a brute because you couldn't buy a claim on me by fetching my slippers. You were a fool. I think a woman fetching a man's slippers is a disgusting sight. Did I ever fetch your slippers? I think a good deal more of you for throwing them in my face. If you come back and dare to fetch and carry slippers, I'll slam the door in your face, Duchess Eliza. So you can come back with us or go to the devil, whichever you please.
What am I to come back for?
For the fun of it. That's why I took you on.
And you may throw me out tomorrow if I don't do everything you want me to.
Yes, and you may walk out tomorrow if I don't do everything you want me to.
And live with my stepmother?
Yes, or sell flowers.
Oh, if only I could go back to my flower basket. I should be independent of both you and father and all the world. Why did you take my independence from me? Why did I give it up?
I'll adopt you as my daughter and settle money on you if you like. Or would you rather marry Pickering?
I wouldn't marry you if you asked me, and you're nearer my age than he is.
Than he is, not than what he is.
I'll talk as I like. You're not my teacher now. You boss me around and tell me to marry Colonel Pickering, but it's Freddy Hill who loves me. He writes me 2 and 3 times a day, sheets and sheets.
Damn his impudence.
Every girl has a right to be loved.
What? By fools like that?
Freddy's not a fool. And if he's weak and poor and wants me, maybe he'd make me happier than my betters who bully me and don't want me.
Can he make anything of you? That's the point.
Perhaps I could make something of him. But I never thought of us making anything of one another. And you never think of anything else. I only want to be natural. I want a little kindness. I know I'm a common ignorant girl and you a book-learned gentleman, but I'm not dirt under your feet. What I did was not for the dresses and the taxis. I did it because we were pleasant together, and I came to care for your friendship.
Well, of course. That's just how I feel, and how Pickering feels, Eliza. You're a fool.
That's not a proper answer to give me. Oh, you are nothing but a bully. You know I can't go back to the gutter, as you call it, and I have no real friends in the world but you and the Colonel. But don't be too sure that you have me under your feet to be trampled on and talked down to. If I can't have kindness, I'll have independence.
Independence? That's middle-class blasphemy. We are all dependent on one another, every soul of us on earth.
I'll let you see whether I'm dependent on you. If you can preach, I can teach. I'll go and be a teacher.
What'll you teach in heaven's name?
What you taught me. I'll teach phonetics.
Ha, ha, ha.
I'll offer myself as an assistant to Professor Neepin.
What? That impostor, that humbug, that toting ignoramus. Teach him my methods, my discoveries. You take one step in his direction and I'll wring your neck. Do you hear?
Ha! Now I know how to deal with you. What a fool I was to not think of it before. You can't take away the knowledge that you gave me. You said I had a finer ear than you, and I can be civil and kind to people, which is more than you can. Ha! That's done you, Henry Higgins, it has. Now, I don't care that much for your bullying and your big talk. I'll advertise it in the papers that your duchess is only a flower girl that you taught, and that she'll teach anyone to be a duchess, just the same in 6 months for 1,000 guineas. Oh, when I think of myself crawling under your feet and being trampled on and called names, when all the time I only had to lift my fingers to be as good as you, I could just kick myself.
Well, 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 you impudent girl. This is better than sniveling, better than fetching slippers and finding spectacles, isn't it? By George, Eliza, I said I'd make a woman of you, and I have. I like you like this. You're a tower of strength.
The carriage is waiting. Eliza, are you ready?
Quite. Is the professor coming?
Oh, certainly not. Henry can't behave himself in church.
Then I shall not see you again, Professor. Goodbye.
Goodbye, dear.
Goodbye, Mother. Oh, by the way, Eliza, order a ham and a Stilton cheese, will you? And buy me a pair of reindeer gloves, No. 8s, and a tie to match the new suit of mine at Eels and Binman's. You can choose the color.
Size 8 is too small for you. You have 3 new ties you've forgotten about in the drawer of your bathroom. Colonel Pickering prefers cheddar to Stilton, and you don't notice the difference. I telephoned Mrs. Pearce this morning not to forget the ham. How will you ever manage without me?
You or Pickering may want to consider proposing to Eliza. You're hopeless without her.
Nonsense. She's going to marry Freddy. Freddy. Freddy.
And now I'd like to introduce our cast of characters. Playing the role of Colonel Pickering, Bachman. Freddy Eynsford-Hill, Eric Bachman. Mrs. Higgins, Henry's mother, Linda Bachman. Covent Garden bystander, Jan Bahner. Clara, Mrs. Eynsford-Hill, Anne Bahner Barney. Clara, her daughter, Alli Bowlin. Mrs. Pearce and Mrs. Higgins' parlor maid, Brittany Copeland. Alfred Doolittle, Carl Hutcherson. Henry Higgins, Jeromy Layman. Eliza Doolittle, Chelsea Turner. And as always, we would like to give a very special thank you to our quarantine theater coordinator and technical guru, Carl Hutcherson. Thank you for joining us tonight for this production of Pygmalion. I'm Jan Bahner. It's been an honor to serve as director for this show. I'd like to thank tonight's actors for giving their time and considerable talents to keep theater alive at Liberty Center. If you enjoyed our show tonight, please consider a donation to Liberty Center Association for the Arts. You can find all you need to know about that on our Facebook page and also on our website, libertycentersedalia.com. Just like you, we are all hopeful that we'll soon be back inside our theater on West 5th Street in Sedalia. And now, if you don't mind waiting for just a very few minutes, our cast will be back to talk about the play. After this live stream closes, we'll put up a new one where you can send us your comments and questions. We hope you'll stay and join us for our talkback.